Not only do we take on the risky cases, we win them. He had one of these mobile TV racks on the top, and he was watching TV as he was driving down the road. We'll collect $400 or $500 for a charity. I'll send the money off. The daughter wrote a little note, and she said, I know you have children. I know that their mother's dead.
Welcome to Celebrating Justice, presented by the Trial Lawyers Journal and CloudLex, the next-gen legal cloud platform built exclusively for personal injury law. Get inspired by the nation's top trial lawyers and share in the stories that shape our pursuit of justice. Follow the podcast and join our community at triallawyersjournal.com. Now here's your host, editor of TLJ and VP of Marketing at CloudLex, Chad Sands.
Welcome back, friends, to Celebrating Justice. In this episode, we hear the inspiring journey of Florida-based trial lawyer Jim Vickaryous. It was his mother who first encouraged him to pursue a career in law, and a spontaneous call from a law school roommate that ultimately set him on the path to litigation. Decades later, Jim stands as a passionate advocate for those who have been seriously injured. To get to the stories, I asked him, why did you want to become a trial lawyer?
Started off with my parents. I've got a mom who's a Navy nurse. Years ago, she was in the Navy and she was a nurse. And my father's a Navy pilot, and they both met on Coronado Island. So same place in Top Gun, that bar where everybody's having fun.
Yes.
My dad met my mom there. That's how they met. So they both have very different ways of looking at the world. I'll never forget my dad. When I was asking him as a kid, what do you think, Dad? What should I do in my life? And I thought he was going to give me just this great advice, specific, like, okay, you need to do this. And he used to be a naval aviator. He used to be a farmer in Alaska. He used to be, before he retired, he was an accountant. Here's a guy who's done many things in his life. And so I figured he'd give me, okay, son, this is what you need to do.
Right.
He didn't tell me to be a lawyer. All he said was, son, do something that's going to help people. Because if you do something that's going to help people, you're going to be happy, they're going to be happy, and you're always going to have a job. And it really stuck with me. I'm like, I think that's good advice. My mother's the one who told me, Jimmy, you should be a lawyer. It was kind of funny, not because I think that she thought I was going to be a great lawyer or I had the aptitude for it. As a nurse, she wanted all her sons to be doctors. There's 4 boys in my family. I'm the oldest. And so she wanted doctors. My mom was one of these kind of focused moms. She made us all get up in the morning, go to school. We all went to college, all that stuff. Very strict when it came to that. So she wanted me to be a doctor. But the problem with me, and she saw this early, is I'm terrified of needles. I really hate them. And I don't like looking at blood. Those are 2 kind of key things.
Yes.
For being a
Required.
doctor.
Yes. Those are must-haves.
Son number 1, he's not cut out to be a doctor. So she started putting it in my ear that I should be a lawyer. It's kind of interesting. I mean, if I'm honest with myself, it had a lot to do with my parents. Side note, 2 of my other 3 brothers, they're doctors. So
I was wondering if son 2, 3, or 4 made it to the hospital.
She convinced them, and they're great doctors. One's an orthopedic surgeon. Another is family care practitioner. So they're great doctors. But I'm the one of the 4 sons that you went into the law. And I'm very happy I did, because I really enjoy helping people. It's fun. It makes you sleep well at night too.
Did you know you wanted to be a plaintiff attorney out of law school? And is that where you started? Or how did you get to where you're at with your firm today?
I started off practicing law by basically getting the only job I could get. So graduated in 93 from Stetson University College of Law. So that's in St. Petersburg, Gulfport, Florida. In 93, it was a really tight legal market as opposed to now. Now, if you have a heartbeat and you have a bar license, you can get a job. There's a real shortage of lawyers right now. But back then, not the case. It was pretty tough. I remember looking for a job. My law school roommate called me up one morning. He's like, Jimmy, what you doing right now? I'm laughing. I'm like, what I do every day. I'm looking for a job. He goes, okay, be here at my law firm at noon. My senior partner wants to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, how does he know me? And he goes, oh, he doesn't know you. I walked into the office and he said, first call you're going to make is to whoever you know that has a bar license and who doesn't have a job, because we need a lawyer this afternoon. They had just gotten hired on a bunch of different cases. So they just needed a body.
And your buddy was the lifeline call to you?
He gave me the lifeline call, and I was there with my only suit at noon. and we had lunch. This was the 90s, so younger lawyers may not understand how un-PC these interviews were.
It's like the Wolf of Wall Street era, kind of, I imagine.
It was exactly like that. So he wasn't beating his chest like Matthew McConaughey did. But anyways, he said some things that I can't repeat here right now, but I'll just give the gist that it was one of these, crazy interviews that I remember just sitting there, and I wanted the job. So I answered all the questions, but it was interesting. Anyways, I later learned it was going to say that day they just needed somebody, and they hired me. That's how I started. It was a litigation firm, but it wasn't personal injury. It was Sarasota, Bradenton, kind of high-end commercial litigation firm. So I learned a lot there. And then I started my own law firm with another law school buddy of mine in Pasco County, so just north of Tampa. We did general practice, everything. That's when I started doing personal injury. It was kind of interesting. The people would come in and they'd say, hey, I got these problems, can't pay my bills. It was before the big advertising campaigns. And after asking them, well, why can't you pay your bills? Like, oh, I got hit by a big truck and I can't work anymore. I had a surgery. And I'm like, did you make a claim?
Right.
No. Nice people that are not lawyers, they don't know the law. They're just trying to get better. To them, they're like, oh, I can't pay my bills because I can't work. You make the next connection. And it's kind of surprising sometimes that people wouldn't make the full connection, but yeah, they're not lawyers either. So that's where I come in to help. That's where I started. Now I'm doing it 100% full time. All we do is help people with injuries, but I just started off as a country lawyer trying to help people, and it led me to here.
So as a country lawyer trying to help people down in Florida, what makes you unique as a trial lawyer?
A couple things make us unique. One thing is I personally, and therefore my law firm, has a very high risk tolerance, meaning we're willing to take on a lot of risk to help people at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's for the client. A lot of people have cases that if you don't push them as far as you can within the law and be firm with the insurance companies and make sure that in the end, forced to do the right thing, you're not going to get the best benefit, the best resolution for your client. So we take on some hard cases. And that's one of the reasons why we've done well over the years. Not only do we take on the risky cases, we win them. I can't count the number of times I've had my paralegals come in and say, Jim, what are we doing here? I'll tell them, hey, look, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. This is a case I can win. I know I can do it. Kind of makes me laugh sometimes because everybody has a risk tolerance. Some people are very risk intolerant. They don't want to take risks. And that's most people. I get that. I'm on the other end of the spectrum. As I've grown older, I've tempered it with understanding that not every case can be won. But that's one of the things that's kept people knocking on our doors over the years and helped us do well. I'm real happy about that.
Were you a little bit more risky early on in your career than you are now? Or do you think you're more risky now that you're kind of more established and have maybe the freedom to take on some of those cases, because you're not just risking the verdict or the outcome for your client, you're risking the financial backing of the case and potentially taking it to trial and all this time and energy?
I'd say I have about the same risk tolerance. I'm still very open to risk. I think it has less to do with my experience and more to do with just who I am. I look at something and I see what I see. And in my opinion, I'm just not going to be talked out of or persuaded of what I see. I'm very diplomatic with my opposing counsel and the companies that we're working against. They'll tell me, Jim, your client's just not right. We don't see it your way. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can see it your way.
Yeah.
We can see it our way. And we'll let the jury tell us how they see it. It's a lot of lawyers don't practice law that way. That's the way I look at it. And it's worked out well.
In addition, I guess, to being risk averse and taking on those cases, you also authored a book, Being a Lawyer. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Being a Lawyer is a compilation, about 30 chapters of articles I've been writing for the Florida Bar Journal. It's kind of interesting. I've never really set a goal of writing a book, publishing a book. That's not something that I woke up years ago and said, okay, I'm going to be an author.
Yes.
It happened by small steps and then a lot of steps. On about a decade ago, someone approached me and they're like, hey, Jim, you should go run for the Board of Governors of the Florida Bar. My first question was, what's the Florida Bar Board of Governors? That's what everybody tells me when I say it. So the Florida Bar, 115,000 lawyers at this point, is governed by a Board of Governors of 52 lawyers. And each circuit in Florida, so there's 20 circuits, all the lawyers get to vote every 2 years for their representative. And those representatives vote on ethics rules. They vote on discipline of other lawyers, generally how the bar is going to be managed.
Okay.
So I'm like, Wow, yeah, I'd like to do that. I'm very active politically in our community. I know a lot of people. I try to help a lot of people running for office. So it was something I was interested in. So I ran, I won. And once I got on there, I realized, wow, we're really doing a lot of things, including the Florida Bar News. So it's a twice a month publication and has news articles, has some columns. So I decided, oh, you know what? I'm going to write a column, series of monthly columns for Florida Bar News. And the purpose is going to be to talk about ethics, legal ethics. But when you look at ethics, especially legal ethics, it always kind of cracks me up because I'll hear lawyers say, oh, I'm very ethical.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about that. First off, you don't want to brag to people that you're the most honest person in the room, because then people start thinking, well, why does he have to tell me he's honest? The way ethics works is ethics is actually the bare minimum. It's the bare minimum rules not to be disciplined by the Florida Bar. When a client comes and has a problem, they want to hire a lawyer. It doesn't matter what kind of lawyer, personal injury, contracts, whatever they're looking for, marital, probate. They're not looking for the bare minimum lawyer. They want the aspirational lawyer. They want the experienced lawyer. They want the lawyer that knows all the ins and outs. They want somebody who's practicing at the top of their game. The way I looked at writing the articles, I'm like, okay, I'm going to write articles on aspirational high points of practicing law, as opposed to barely the bare minimum. And so in the articles, I'll mention an ethical rule just to make a point. I'll mostly kind of walk through, this is how you become a great lawyer, and thus the name of the book, Being a Lawyer, because it's not a self-help book. It's not a how to practice law book. It's how to be a great lawyer. And that's how we came up with the book. So my practice manager, a guy named Tony Peasy, who helps me with my tech and a lot of other practice management stuff, he's like, Jim, we should publish a book. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't know any publishers. He's like, oh, I used to be a publisher before I did this. He goes, we got it published. It's in hardback, given away just as gifts to friend, about 1,000 copies. I've got a couple thousand more copies that I intend to give out at other times. I've been doing a book tour. We've been going across Florida talking about the book. It's fun. When I go on the book tour, I tell everybody at the end, hey, look, I'm not going to sell you my book. I'm going to give you my book, but you need to give $20 per book to a charity. And we're going to pick a charity today. You tell me what charity we're sending it to, the money to, and we're going to send that money to that charity. So it's been fun. We'll collect $400 or $500 for a charity. I'll send the money off.
To get back to the cases and the stories, I know it's hard to choose one, but could you share a story about a case that you've had that had a significant impact on you?
It is hard. You've been talking to trial attorneys now for a while, and you know when you start asking for stories, it can go on for days, right? My wife and my family and my friends laugh at me when I start telling stories, and then I tell another one, and it's more shocking than the first. It was about 10 years ago. I represented a family who, just a very horrible accident. There was a billionaire who was driving a customized Chevy Silverado 2500 truck down the road. Beautiful truck, big tires, it's jacked up. He's got the rack on top, the lights, everything you could think of that you could spend money on a truck. This guy had it, including a tech company install a TV screen into his dashboard. He had one of these mobile TV racks on the top, and he was watching TV as he was driving down the road. Now, in Florida and in most states, that's illegal for obvious reasons. A driver needs to keep their eyes on the road. You know, they have a duty to others to keep them safe and to be on the lookout. He was watching TV. So he goes through a stop sign. He hits my client's minivan. In the minivan is my client's wife and his 2 children. When he hits the minivan so hard that it pops up into the air, and imagine a soda can that's burst open when you break it open, kind of burst open. The little boy is ejected about 50 feet. The mom is injured quite badly. Fortunately for the little girl that was in there, she was injured just a little bit, but she survived and was okay. But immediately after this happens, my client, the husband of this family, husband and father, is driving by, and he sees a wreck. The minivan is so wrecked, he has no idea that it's his minivan. He pulls aside. He's one of these good Samaritans. He would have done it for anybody. And he's just a wonderful person that likes to help people. So he pulls over, he runs out, gets to the minivan, and he sees his wife in it. His wife is still conscious, and she's like, find her son. He's missing. I don't know where he is. So he finds the son. The son is in the moments of his death, essentially. Both the wife and the son go to the hospital. A member of the family called me and asked me to meet him because he wanted to talk to me. We get to the hospital, and it was just very sad. The wife passed. The son passed. By the time that I was talking to this poor man, organ harvesting team had come in, and they were asking him for permission to make a donation of his wife and his son and their organs. Just the generosity of spirit that this man had in that moment of just horrible grief. He agreed and helped many people. The organ donation company was so impressed with his generosity of spirit that they invited him about a year later to a get-together of every single person who had received an organ, a life-giving organ from his son and his wife. And it was a room full of people. I was just so impressed with my client. I'm like, wow, this horrible tragedy, his generosity helped so many other people. I've remained very good friends with him, and I won't go into how it was resolved, but it was just a very generous father and daughter who had survived. The billionaire, not only did we sue him for the wrongful death of these two people, the state came after him. The state of Florida prosecuted him for 2 criminal counts, vehicular manslaughter, and it was interesting. The father wanted him to go to jail with good reason. Certainly he was just in seeking that. The daughter, it was interesting. The daughter wrote a little note. I showed this to the billionaire and his lawyers. The daughter wrote a little note and she said, I know you have children. I know that their mother's dead. He was a single dad. Now that I don't have a mom and I only have one parent, I don't want your children to be orphans if you go to jail. I'm making the choice of forgiving you. Now, this is a 13-year-old girl. I'm making the choice of forgiving you, and I wish you a good life. Her father read this, and he's like, okay, we're done. Heartbreaking story, but just forgiveness and the generosity of these people make you really appreciate the goodness in this world.
At CloudLex, we understand the unique demands and opportunities that personal injury law firms face every day. That's why we've built a comprehensive platform designed exclusively for personal injury law. Our seamless case management, AI engine, litigation support, and record retrieval solutions empower you at every stage, from intake through settlement and beyond, helping you stay productive, organized, and focused on achieving successful outcomes for your clients. Explore what's possible at cloudlex.com. Now here is this episode's closing argument.
In the early mid-1990s, I was an officer in the U.S. Army Reserves and became a military police officer. So I was a platoon leader. Had about 40 troops that were assigned to me, and I was in the 351st Military Police Reserve. At that time, as a lawyer, the extra income from being in the Army Reserves actually was very helpful to me. So I had an 8-year commitment in the reserves. In the 7th year of my commitment, so 1997, we're flown out as a unit for 2 weeks, annual training, to Fort Bliss, Texas. I think when the Army named the base over 100 years ago, they were joking. There is no bliss in Fort Bliss. At the end of our training, we were called up one morning to get into company formation, so about 200 troops. And this helicopter comes flying in. A 3-star general comes walking out. Rotor blades don't stop, meaning that he's going to intend to get back into that helicopter pretty quickly. So he walks up to us and he gives us a quick speech. And he goes, the President of the United States has signed an order activating your unit. And in 30 days, you will be sent to Bosnia on a NATO peacekeeping mission to keep the peace there. Good luck, gentlemen, and Godspeed. Salutes us, then he turns around, gets on the helicopter and flies away. All of us are looking at each other and we're somewhat terrified. Bosnia at that time was just coming out of a horrible war, civil war and the breakup of the former Yugoslavia. You fly back to Florida, we're basically told, okay, you got 30 days to get your affairs in order and we're going to be gone for about a year. So I get back to my little law firm, country law firm in Newport Richey, Florida. Pasco County, I sit down with my partner and my staff and I let them know, hey, look, I'm going to be gone for the next year. Say a prayer for me. So we fly to Hungary, southern Hungary, a base called Tazar. There we go in convoy with all our battle rattle from Hungary into Bosnia, and we get to our base there. For the next year or so, we're patrolling something called the zone of separation. So the Muslim part of Bosnia was separated under a peace agreement. the Dayton Peace Accords from the Serbian Orthodox Christian part of Bosnia, and then another portion of Bosnia was occupied by ethnic Croatians, Catholic Croatians. So there was Catholics, Orthodox Serbians, and then Muslims. And these were the ethnicities that were fighting each other. It was interesting from my perspective and from my troops' perspective, because we had at the time what you would call today a very diverse unit. Everybody in my unit had different skin colors, different eye colors. So it was interesting when we would go to former war zones and talk to the local people and try to put out arguments that were happening. We would see people who were European Muslims arguing with European Serbians, Orthodox Christians, European Croatian Catholics, and they were speaking the same language, Serbo-Croatian. They all speak the same language. They're all part of the same part of Europe, so they all look the same ethnically to an American. We would come back to the chow hall at night and kind of laugh to each other, and we'd say to each other, we have more to fight about when it comes to our differences in this unit ethnically than these guys do, but yet they can't get along. Somehow we all get along fine. We watch each other's backs, no matter what we look like, because at the end of the day, we all wear Army green. We're all United States citizens, and we're here to help. So it was interesting to us. We would patrol different areas, and what I found both fascinating and chilling, sickening about the country is you would drive through one valley with your Army convoy, and you would have these beautiful villages, beautiful homes, fat little chubby-cheeked, rosy-cheeked children playing outside, lots of cows and other animals, prosperous places. You'd go through these prosperous valleys. And you go to the next valley, and there was nothing. It was almost biblical, like you were driving through the valley of death. There weren't even birds. There were no animals. All the trees had been burnt down. And you could see where little villages used to be, but the houses were gone. All you saw was the foundation left from these homes. But literally, these places had been razed. At first, it was a little confusing to us all because we're not Bosnians. We're not from that part of Europe. We wouldn't know why one valley would be prosperous and the next valley is devoid of anything living. Turned out that when Yugoslavia fell apart, and it happened quickly, the former government of Yugoslavia was communist in a way that communists didn't believe in ethnic fighting. And so that was something that was forbidden. People were, on the whole, treated equally from an ethnicity standpoint. Nobody had freedom, and nobody was allowed to vote or anything along those lines, but basic freedom from ethnic hostility and genocide, that they did have that protection. When Yugoslavia fell apart, many of these ethnicities started getting worried. They're like, wait a minute, can we get justice in our legal system if somebody does us wrong in the other valley and I'm a Muslim and the judge is a Serbian Orthodox Christian? Or vice versa. They really started getting paranoid about this. And the war started with one ethnicity going across the valley and wiping out the other ethnicity. And all coming down to a large extent, they had lost faith in their legal system. They lost faith in their government, that their government could maintain order. And I've always remembered that coming back to America, especially being there, being a civilian lawyer before I went over there and being a lawyer now, we take for granted how much our legal system provides us peace and prosperity, and you see it. You see how much it's a detriment to a society not to have that, because people just killed each other in very vicious ways because they lost their faith in their legal system and their government. It's something that's remained with me and definitely gives me a lot of deep respect for our system, despite some of its failings. Nothing's perfect. Certainly, American justice isn't perfect, but after being around the world and seeing a lot, I like our system a lot more than any other. We've got a lot to be thankful here. We really do.
That was trial lawyer Jim Vickaryous. Thanks for sharing your stories. To learn more about Jim and his firm, visit his website, yourfloridainjurylawyer.com. All right, I'm Chad Sands. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
You've been listening to Celebrating Justice, presented by CloudLex and the Trial Lawyers Journal. Remember, the stories don't end here. Visit triallawyersjournal.com to become part of our community and keep the conversation going. And for a deeper dive into the tools that empower personal injury law firms, visit cloudlex.com/TLJ to learn more.